Okay, now recording.
Okay, great. Thank you everyone again. This is our second edition of our webinars for Build Your Future project. Just want to welcome everyone that's on the call. First of all, I just acknowledge from my team who's here. So can everyone that's on the call from Building Pathways just wave at the camera and say hello to our guests. I can't see from my screen exactly who's attending, what guests we've got here, but if we just quickly introduce ourselves, Usha, Mike, just say your name and your job title and your role at Building Pathways as an introduction, briefly.
Okay, yeah, hi. So I'm Usha, I'm project manager.
I'm Mike, I'm one of the directors and I do business development.
I'm Tracy and I'm the project assistant.
Excellent. And my name is Philip Mills and I'm one of the directors alongside Mike at Building Pathways. And as I've mentioned today, we are doing our second employer talk with our guest speaker, Megan from J. Murphy's and Hochtief. It's a joint venture. I know she's employed officially by J. Murphy's, but this is a joint venture that she's working on, and she'll talk a bit more about that as we go on today. So welcome everyone. The aim of the session today is to give our guests an insight into the world of construction, the industry that is booming despite everything that's going on. Still producing, developing and creating spaces and infrastructure for us all. Still a lot of activity going on. And we're using this opportunity to give you an insight into the types of career paths that you can potentially pursue in construction. This is part of a longer term project, which as I said is called Build Your Own Future. And we will be running these seminars twice per month over the next 6 to 7 months with a view of preparing people for the world of work through developing skills such as employability skills and work readiness skills to give you the best chance really of getting an opportunity towards the end of the program, whether that's going into an apprenticeship opportunity or a job opportunity or into further training that will help you develop job-specific skills that are relevant for the industry. So today, our session, we're looking at 45 minutes, I would say, half an hour for our guest speaker to speak with some questions and answers at the end. We may well run over the 45, but I'm sure we'll be finished by 9 o'clock. There will be an opportunity, as I say, to answer questions at the end, ask questions at the end, but also throughout the call, you can use the chat room to put down any thoughts that you might have relating to the conversations that we're having. And as I say, and put down your questions and we'll seek to answer those questions towards the end. Okay, without further ado, okay, I'll hand you over to our guest speaker, Megan. Just really thankful, Megan, once again for you to come today. Really exciting to hear about all that you do within the industry and obviously what your project is doing to provide opportunities for local people to get into the industry as well. So the screen is yours.
Thank you. Let me just get it going. Okay, so hello everyone. So my name is Megan Prigmore. So I work in the construction industry. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to our industry, all the different types of roles and the types of projects that we work on. So as an introduction to me, so I've worked in construction for the last 4 years now. So I started my career as a business admin apprentice within the recruitment sector, worked there for around 3 years and then crossed over to construction, where my first project was the Crossrail project, so the new Elizabeth line on the tube map. I started there as an admin. I then got involved in volunteering and progressed to London Bridge station redevelopment, where my job was to support apprentices and work in the local community. I worked on HS2 then for 2 years, or 2.5 years, and my job was actually to proactively work in the 7 boroughs that our route passed and look at local employment, help people into jobs, hire apprentices, support the apprentices on the project, and do lots of outreach in the community. I joined J Murphy and Sons just in March this year, so just before lockdown. And luckily I'm working on 2 kind of big exciting projects. So I work on an Oxford Street project, and then I work also on London Power Tunnels, which I'm going to speak to you about today. So my job on there is again just supporting the community and helping people into employment. Hence why I'll be doing most of these sessions as the time goes on. So in terms of the construction industry, and this is me talking on behalf of kind of major projects, so the larger scale construction works, we tend to fall into sectors. So we have the transportation sector, which can be anything from railway. So you might have heard, again, like I mentioned, HS2, Crossrail. You've got the motorway projects, any bridge projects. Then we have the power sector. So London Power Tunnels, which I'll speak to you about, definitely falls under that one. We have the water sector, so any sewage works, Thames Tideway is a good version of that one. Natural resources, so your wind farms, everything like that. And then construction, property and services, so anything from kind of housing, office blocks and anything like that falls under that category. So this is kind of the structure that most large construction companies go for. And then in terms of project setup, because I know it can be quite confusing when you're outside of the industry to kind of understand how construction works. So basically on a construction project, we are divided into 3 parts. So we have the client, and they could be somebody like the council, or they could also be a limited company. So for example, on our projects, one of our clients is Westminster Council, but another client of ours is National Grid. And basically the client is the one that comes up with the idea for the construction project. They define all the aesthetic and functional needs, and they then go out to tender for contractors to win the works. So J Murphy and Sons and Hochtief are contractors. We are companies that bid for the works on large projects. We will put together a tender which will say exactly kind of how we will deliver the works, what price it will be, what type of team we will have, and then basically the companies that win that are the main contractor. Then obviously we can't do everything. There are certain skills that obviously we need to hire in separate companies to come along and help us out, and they would form our supply chain or subcontractors. So for example, on the project, if we need specialist scaffolding works, we would employ a separate company to come in and do that. So although we're all working on the same project, we might just have different companies who we work for, but ultimately we're kind of all working towards the same goal. Then just to get a little bit more confusing, we have something called joint ventures. And basically what this is when we go back, so this middle section there, that contractor section, this can sometimes be 2 companies that will come together. So basically they might come together because surely for the size of the project, they might not have enough staff to cover it themselves, but also in terms of specialist business. So for example, on our project, we are a mix of Hochtief and Murphy's. So Hochtief are a specialist tunnelling construction company. They've done a lot of huge tunnelling projects, so we're bringing over that specialist side to the project. And then Murphy's are quite big in the UK. They have a huge workforce. We've joined together on this project. So what you'll see is when you look at construction projects, if they ever abbreviate the names and ends in JV, it's because it's a joint venture and you've got 2 companies or 3 working together. So HMJV, or Hochtief Murphy joint venture, have actually been going together for quite a while. They've worked on some big projects. They're actually the longest established joint venture within the UK, and they've been formed since probably late 90s. So they've worked on some big projects. They've worked on the Channel Tunnel, and they've also done some parts on Crossrail. So the good thing about the fact that we've been going for so long, we're already working together, is all our processes are quite streamlined and we all follow the same values. And our main value and ethos is one team, one spirit. So although you might be in the office and the person sitting next to me could work for Hochtief and I could work for Murphy's, essentially whilst working on that project, we're all one team. So when we drew, let me just move this off my screen, hold on. So when it comes down to our values, this is something basically we communicate right from the beginning of the project, making sure that everyone on the project is on board and abiding by these values, as this is something we want to know by just by our employees, but also by the public. So obviously the number one is ensuring everyone remains healthy and safe. We have a big health and safety team that kind of makes sure that all of the right things are in place and everyone is acting safe and going home every day. In terms of the environment and sustainability, we want to better the environment and communities around us. So again, the environment team and legacy team will kind of look after this. Then we want to deliver a high quality end product and be right first time. Operate in a respectful and collaborative manner, develop innovative technical solutions, have a strong work ethic and lead by example, take responsibility for what we do, be clear in our communication, better the programme and budget, and then support one another and have fun. And basically, yeah, this is kind of the agenda for the project. You get told this on your first day within the induction, then you get reminded on it on behaviour days that we do all throughout our project life. And this is kind of everything what we go by. So in terms of London Power Tunnels, it is a huge project. It started early this year, and actually it's the second phase in the London Power Tunnels project. So this project is owned by National Grid and they are our client. And basically the first phase was in the north of London and now the second phase is in the south of London. And what the project is basically underneath London, there are existing electrical cables that are coming to the end of their life. So for the lights we've all got on our houses at the minute, the electricity that my laptop's running off, everything like that, all runs off these cables. And basically we need to now replace these existing cables. So to make it better in the future for when these come to the end of their life, so people can replace them a lot easier than what we're having to do, we are building quite big tunnels under the south of London, and these will house the electrical cables. So there's a huge piece of work done that's going to go from Wimbledon all the way through to Bexley in Kent. So what we're doing with these massive tunnels is creating shafts and head houses across the route, and that will make it easy for access and ventilation and in case of any emergencies along the route. So as you can see, we go from Wimbledon through to Lambeth, then to New Cross, Kidbrooke, Eltham and Bexley Crayford area. Our main office, we're temporarily in offices in Bermondsey at the moment, but we are moving to New Cross in, it's meant to be October, but now we're looking at November, December time. That will be our main hub. That's where we'll be working. And then we also have offices along the route with other main sites being the Lambeth and the Bexley site. So when you come onto the project, you might be working across a few of the sites, but you could also be based at just one of the main hubs. In construction, everyone tends to think we only have the on-site roles. So we do obviously have a huge site base, and basically they can be anything from your trades. So we have your carpenters, your bricklayers, you have your miners, your general operatives. Then you have the next level, so supervision, supervisors, frontline supervisors, foremen, general foremen, everything like that. And then obviously you have your engineers. So they are employed by Hochtief or Murphy. We also have specialist tunnelling roles. But then we also have in-office roles. So behind every site, like I just said, we have big offices, and within that we have our administration teams, our community teams, health and safety, environment, quality, kind of you name it. So just as big as the site team is, our in-office team are kind of just as big. We currently have around 250 staff at the moment. And like I said, we are still at the early stages and we're looking to peak to around 400 in total. And that will be a mixture of contractor and subcontractor. But as you can see, we're going to be around for the next 5 years, and there'll be lots of different kind of roles available on the project, whether that be on site, in office, or a role that allows you to do a bit of both. In terms of getting into the construction industry, and actually it's quite similar across any other industry, there are kind of 3 main avenues. So you have the apprenticeship side, graduate schemes, and then entry route. So to explain an apprenticeship, basically that is where you are studying to get your qualification while also gaining experience and getting a wage. So basically, when you apply for an apprenticeship, they go into levels, and basically what those levels mean is what's on the screen. So for example, a level 2 is equivalent to your GCSEs, level 3 equivalent to A level, level 4 and 5 is equivalent around to a foundation degree, and then level 6 is your degree apprenticeships. So for example, if I have my GCSEs, I would be going in for a level 3 or 4 apprenticeship. So it's just making sure you know where you are, so you know what level you're applying for an apprenticeship, because you don't want to be going into a level 2 apprenticeship if you've already got your GCSEs. So just making sure you're applying for the right apprenticeship that suits you. In terms of apprenticeships, so we do them in all the different levels and then across multiple job roles. So you've got your civil engineering, your quantity surveying, again, your health and safety and environment, construction management, business administration, electrical installation, plant maintenance, and plant operator. So they're the ones that we're currently doing. We have started to look at if we can do a tunnelling apprenticeship, which will be super interested, and I'm really, really keen to kind of get that going. But yeah, these are what we're doing at the moment, but they can always change when new apprenticeships come out. The benefits of an apprenticeship, obviously the main one is you're earning money while you work. Obviously a lot of people will go to university, especially for the level 6 apprenticeships. You could go to university and you're paying around 9,000 a year for that course, when instead you could be doing it whilst you're working and actually getting money rather than kind of getting yourself in debt. Probably the best part of it is you gain hands-on experience, which is invaluable. A lot of people will come out of university and come into a role, and they haven't got that experience that you would have had 3 or 4 years doing on top of them. You'll learn important life skills. You are part of the team. It's not just an apprenticeship and you're not just there as a trainee. You are part of the team. You have a set role and you're fully within the team and on that project. And then obviously you're gaining a head start on your career path. If you actually look at how it levels out, what you can gain in that time of an apprenticeship while someone else may be going to university or doing their college course, you're kind of far ahead of them. But obviously it's down to you and kind of what's best for you. If you do want to go to university, there is something called a graduate scheme. And again, this isn't just unique to the construction industry. I'm sure a lot of places offer them. And what a graduate scheme is, it's something you apply for in your 2nd year of university, ready for when you finish. And basically a graduate scheme is kind of like a training scheme. So it's around 2 years long. And within that, you get to rotate around the sectors. So remember where I mentioned transportation, water, power, you'll have exposure to all of them. So it's great networking for you. You'll also get signed up to have your chartership. So basically that's like a professional qualification in the industry. So you become a chartered surveyor, you become a chartered engineer, and just something else to add to your qualification. You then also have a training matrix, so you'll be put on lots of different training modules, lots of networking events that help you progress in your career. In terms of the graduate scheme, we offer this in terms of civil engineering, quantity surveying, construction management, procurement, mechanical engineering, and geotechnical engineering. This one's a little bit more niche in the fact that your university degree needs to be in line with one of those job roles, just because it just makes it a lot easier when they bring on the bigger cohort. But there's ways around it if obviously you've got a good interest in the construction industry. Then there's the other route, which is entry route. This is basically somebody coming in and starting off as a low level and working their way up. So this can be kind of in any type of role. You'll find a lot of people actually in the construction industry may have come in through this route. So for myself, I started in the industry in administration and just got exposure to different sectors and different roles, and then worked my way up. Same for some people who might be working in the procurement team. So they've come on and then they've worked their ways up. People on site, you might come on as a general op, and then you could progress to a foreman, or even if you wanted to do an apprenticeship once you're on board. Construction are really good at kind of investing in your development. So there's hundreds of training opportunities once you're on board. So you're not just limited in kind of the role that you're brought on. In terms of why I work in the construction industry, so these are just a few things I've picked. Obviously, I think if you speak to other people, they might have a different view or kind of loads more to add. I think probably the best thing about working in construction is you're part of a team. And I would say, especially when you're working on a site, you form like a little family bond. And that's something I noticed as soon as I came in the industry. It's very much everything we do is focused on the team working aspect. Everyone's job affects somebody else. So you need to be kind of clear, honest and transparent in your role, and know that you're kind of working for the wider team rather than just in silo. And part of that is actually really, really rewarding. So when we win awards, we don't just win an award for a certain member of the project, we win as a team. And actually the rewarding aspect comes much more than that when you actually see your projects come to life. So for me, I've worked on Crossrail and I actually got to go to the Paddington station before anyone else in the public will go there. So that's a nice thing. Once that's up and running and I can get to go through there, I'll know I've already been there. Also with London Bridge Station, there is like a sense of like proudness as you walk through there knowing that you was part of that project. So it's definitely a rewarding job, and actually if you speak to anybody who's been in the industry for a while, they'll tell you about some of the favourite projects they've worked on, and mostly it's because when they look back and they walk through that area or they see that building, it is that sense of reward. If you are somebody who likes change, can kind of get bored in the same position, likes to have things changed up every now and again, I would say definitely for myself, construction is amazing for that. So you could be with the same company for 10 years, but you would have worked on 5 different projects with 5 different teams, and it would feel like it would have felt like you've moved jobs, but actually you're in the same stable job. And you've got that progression, but you've just had that exposure to lots of different things. So it's great in that aspect. I did touch on this a minute ago, but the development opportunities in construction is immense. Basically, each person that gets employed on the project, and actually on our project, even if you are with the supply chain, so you're not even with our company, you come on and you get a whole training matrix made up for you. And basically throughout your time on the project, you will be enrolled in lots of different training. That could be anything from training of behaviours to training which will give you certificates and tickets, but then also your higher level training. So if you did want to get into a course, you wanted to do your level 5s or 6s, then they're definitely investing in you. I guess the great one is you can work anywhere in the world. There's always a need for construction, and a lot of people have been to some really, really great places with their work. So that one's obviously a huge one. And then there's always a demand for it. So one thing, so I work a lot with students, and one thing I always say to students is when you leave here today, because they're normally face to face, but maybe when you're out tomorrow, when you look and see how many cranes there are about, that's probably only half the construction companies in that area. So there is such a huge demand for construction. I know even in the latest speeches post-COVID, they're saying how they're going to invest in the construction work. So there's always a demand for it. So it's definitely kind of a good industry to get in on that way. Expectations in construction. So again, just kind of going back to that whole teamwork and ethos and the one team, one spirit. You need to be a good communicator. And I don't mean in terms of being like loud and confident. I just mean being open and honest. Like I said, it is just kind of when you come to a construction site, sometimes it can be a bit daunting if you're not from that industry, but what you'll quickly find is it's a really good, friendly atmosphere, and as long as you can be part of that, it works really, really well. You need to be reliable. We things on site can change within a second. We do adapt to changes quite quickly, and actually by being reliable and actually being committed to the project is a huge thing. But I think that's all part and parcel of once you're on the project and you're enjoying who you're working with and you see the bigger picture of the project you're involved in, it just comes naturally. One big one for us is we have drug and alcohol tests. So on arrival on the project, our first day is an induction, and we do have a drug and alcohol test there. So we have a zero tolerancy, and basically throughout our project life, we do have random tests as well. So they could you could show up to site one day and you'll get told that you have to take a random drug and alcohol test. There is basically a zero tolerance on this. So as soon as you do fail any of those tests, you are off the site and off the project. But basically in terms of expectations, it's more so if you've got the right attitude, you'll go quite far in our industry. It's not necessarily you have to have all the right qualifications. It's definitely right attitude, and then you're on your way. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Megan. That was
I don't know if I whizzed through that, sorry.
fine, perfect. There's one question that's come up, and it's from Philip. When is the next round of recruitment for apprenticeships and graduate schemes? So with apprenticeships, we are quite open. They're quite flexible apprenticeships. So certain subjects you can take people on all throughout the year. The only ones that you can't tend to do that is with your higher ones, your level 6, just because they normally work in line with the universities. So we are basically at the minute, we will be advertising our graduates and then higher degree apprenticeships around this time and on the lead up to Christmas. Then it'll be the interview process till around about March, and then you'll hear if you're successful towards the summer. And that's basically for your higher apprenticeships and your graduate schemes. But in terms of the other apprenticeships and things like work placements and things like that, they are very ad hoc. They're kind of, like I said, construction is really reactive. So it might just be, I could walk in the office tomorrow and they'll be like, let's hire an electrical apprenticeship. So it's very reactive like that. But I think by having this connection, so obviously me working with Building Pathways, if you are interested in anything like that, just go through them and come through to us. And sometimes we can make the need for it as well. That's what our job's quite good at. Okay. And then the second question is, when you were at Crossrail, did you work with the Crossrail job brokerage? No, so when I worked on Crossrail, that was my first job in the industry. So I was very admin based. I was on a Royal Oak job in Westbourne Park. So my job was predominantly admin. It just so happened I got involved with the volunteering side of things, that my next job led me to kind of where I am. But I know that they did a huge piece on kind of local employment. Mm-hmm. And then this is quite relevant for where we are today with COVID. Are you offering virtual site visits and work experience? Yes, so we are, we're obviously doing virtual workshops, and we are doing virtual work experience. We have one coming up on the 26th of October. The only issue I'd say that on there is an age restriction on that, just because the organisation we're going through. So that is, I think it's up to 19. But yeah, if you fit into that age group, then definitely I'll send the link so you can apply. That is for the week commencing the 26th of October, so the October half term. And you basically log in on the platform from 10 AM every morning till 3:30 in the afternoon. There is breaks and lunch. And basically what we do is we bring in a different employee every day. They'll speak to you about their role, their career journey. Then we have a few tasks, and then we have a week-long group task where we prepare a tender. And basically you'll get exposure to project directors, early careers teams, and lots of different people which are basically will help you in your career. So it is a really useful week. We have started looking at taking people back face to face. As a project, we've still been operating during COVID, and I know I'm in my house at the moment, but obviously normally I am in the office. Our offices are quite good for keeping socially distanced. So yeah, we can definitely look at kind of both avenues, and to basically apply for those again is just to contact me through Building Pathways.
Could I ask everybody to unmute and ask the questions? I know they're in the chat box. It'd be nice if you could speak to Megan as well. I've got a question here from, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, is it Denice? Thanks, Megan. That was deeply informative. I'm a finishing manager for 3 years now, but I'm interested in quantity surveying. What route would you advise?
I think it comes down obviously to like personal circumstances, 100%. So you have, I guess you have two options if you haven't already got your degree, and those two options would be either do an apprenticeship. So it's apprenticeship, you can come on, you can obviously all the levels I just spoke about in quantity surveying, and then you'll basically go to college or university 1 day a week, and then you're working as a quantity surveyor for the other 4 days. The only thing with an apprenticeships, obviously you are earning a wage, but it will be slightly less than somebody who's come on as what can I say, as a quantity surveyor, I guess, because there is that training element. So it all comes down to your personal circumstances. If that's okay, then that's definitely a really, really good route. If not, you can definitely come on and kind of work your way up. There might be people who would have come on as an admin support for the commercial team, might be somebody that comes on as an assistant, and basically they get that exposure. And like I said, the company can invest in your development and you can do it that way.
I hope that's answered your question, Denice. If you've got anything more, you're welcome to unmute and ask away. Another question from Philip. Is your company participating in Kickstart?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So basically, this is me speaking from J Murphy and Sons rather than the JV. As a company, you have to commit to at least 30 Kickstart starts, and we have committed to 50. Now that is across the UK, but I will say it's mainly on our projects in London. So you have the project I've just spoke about, so London Power Tunnels. We are also on the HS2 project. We are on a big water project in London. We are on a project in Greater Anglia, and we are on Oxford Street. So we are quite busy in London at the moment. Most of those projects I've just said though are at the early stages, or some haven't even started yet, but that's where the Kickstart opportunities will mainly be. And as part of that, you come on and you do a 6-month work placement, but you're getting paid the whole time. You're getting paid up to London living wage, I think, or even actually up to our rates. And during those 6 months, like, you get invested in loads of training. I think even maybe your first 2 weeks of coming into the industry, you'll be on a big training session. So you won't just get thrown into the industry. You'll definitely kind of get eased in, and you'll come on as a cohort, and then then you're put on your big projects. Okay. And the plan after that is, if you've done, obviously, if all has gone well in those 6 months, you'll come out of that and you can get put straight onto an apprenticeship or into employment.
Are you, Megan, are you working with any intermediaries to help source the candidates, prepare the candidates for this?
For the Kickstart program.
Kickstart, yeah.
So basically, we're waiting to find out kind of what the ins and outs of it are. I know you have to go through the job centre, so that's one thing we're trying to see how it goes. Because especially for me, obviously, I work with a lot of organisations and people that I would like to bring in through that. So I just want to see how tight it is on working just with the job centre. Yeah. But there's ways around that as well. We can always feed people through.
I have got one question, but Mike's, do you want to ask your question, Mike?
Well, it was just referring back to this virtual work experience week that you're running in half term,
Yeah.
which I think is quite exciting and innovative and really interesting. And although it's very short notice, and we might not be the muster candidates at this short notice, it would be really, I was just testing the water to see whether there might be the opportunity to book some slots on that for some of the people that we need to get work experience to, but we're struggling because we can't do it on site.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, the one during half term, we did put a cap on 20 students for that one. I think we've already got 9 confirmed, but what I have said is I'm not too strict on that 20 attendance. I just want it to be a relatively small group so we can still have a good level of interaction. But if we have got candidates interested, I'm not just going to turn them away. But what we can do actually, and me and Philip did speak about this briefly, is we can definitely set up another one. It's quite easy to do, and we've got the kind of format now, so I'm more than happy to run it again. It's just obviously that week is kind of a really good week to get people involved.
Yeah,
that's taking a minute, but yeah, I'll send you the details.
The broad timings in terms of during the Monday to Friday, is it sort of 9 till 5, or what's the sort of broad timing?
It's 10 till 3, because that just helps me in my day, so I can fit things in either side.
On Monday through to Friday.
Monday to Friday, yeah. So it's 10 till 3:30. There are breaks throughout. There is a break for lunch between 12 and 1, and then from 1:30 till 3 in the afternoon on Monday to Thursday, they're doing project work. So they are put into teams, and in those teams they do kind of like their own project work for that hour and a half.
And so this is all via Zoom or Teams.
So it's on something called Google Classrooms. It's very similar. They just go into, there's just a thing where you can put people into breakout rooms, which works well.
Perfect.
I'll send you the link for how people can apply. When you get on the link, it will say that you have to sign in and everything. It's free to sign up. It's free to use. It's just a platform to collect applications, basically. And the applications come straight through to me anyway. So if anyone has any issues, just let me know.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So my question, I was looking at that slide, which was one team, one spirit, where you had the whole team.
Yeah.
I noticed there were very few women in that group. And I was wondering, what's the industry like for women?
So this picture here. So this picture is from Crossrail, okay? So Crossrail was my first project, and that was around 4 years ago. And if I was to be totally honest, I came from working in a recruitment agency, which was predominantly women, and we had to dress really smart for work. And then all of a sudden I decided to change and went to Crossrail, and I was put on this really small site in West London. And when I turned up on the first day, there was one other girl, but she was the cleaner, and there was basically, I had to walk into this room, the canteen, and it was just a sea of guys in orange, and I had to walk through and put something on the screen ready for a presentation. And I honestly wanted the world to swallow me up. But I just felt like that for like probably the first 2 days, and then I literally loved it. I literally love working in construction. And I would say that was around 4 years ago. And I think the site that I was on was just maybe not a good representation, because when I went to the other sites on that project, there was a lot more women. And actually, when I went to London Bridge, the split of women engineers and guy engineers was near enough balanced. And on HS2, I would say they had a really, really good kind of ratio again for women in the industry. On our project, again, at Murphy's, in the office, there's pretty fair split. And then out on the sites, obviously, it is more male dominated, but there's lots of strong females on that site that do kind of boss the guys around. So yeah, we're definitely getting there in terms of diversity.
That's good to hear.
Just another comment or question about that, actually, Megan. As you know, we do mentoring training for industry professionals. Just wondering, from what you see within industry, whether there's a desire for people to become mentors and to mentor individuals that are thinking, particularly women, that are thinking about coming into the industry. Is there a desire? Do you see that in the industry from your colleagues?
Yeah, I think in particularly with women in the industry, they are really keen to kind of get more women into the industry. So they're very keen to support that and actually show people that the industry isn't as daunting as it looks. So they're definitely keen to kind of get out there and get involved. But yeah, definitely, I would say a lot of people actually get involved in the mentoring side, and even this sort of thing. So even with, like I mentioned, the virtual work experience, the amount of the team that offered to help me with that, because they're keen. What we see in construction is basically the workforce is aging, and we have this typical white elder male workforce, and basically now we're bringing on all these new people and we're getting a really diverse workforce, and it's really, really great. We want to continue that development. So yeah, everyone's super keen on kind of having that level of support.
Okay. I don't think there are any more questions. Could you take it to the final slide, please?
Yeah.
And that's for you, Philip, if you want to.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, another really informative presentation, Megan. Great job. I can tell you're used to this. You must have gone through this presentation numerous times, but every time I'm sure there's probably more that you add. But for us who are novices, we always learn so much from, you know, speaking to people like yourself within the industry. I was quite taken back actually about, you know, the number of opportunities and the routes into construction. It's just so wide and varied. Not sure if we've got a poll today.
Yes, I'm going to.
We have got a poll, great. Denise and RJ, if you could answer a few questions in relation to today's presentation, that would be really useful. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that first of all.
I filled it in as well.
Have you? Okay, I don't think
Okay, it's just coming through. It's telling me that only 20% of us has voted.
It's probably me.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Obviously, the aim of today is to encourage people that are considering, and for those that haven't considered construction as a career opportunity for themselves, to think more about what might suit them and what transferable skills you might have that are relevant to the industry. So obviously, if these presentations work and it helps you to make a decision to pursue this type of career, that's obviously helpful for us, and I'm sure Megan will be happy to know that she's doing her job well in presenting all the features of the industry.
So if anyone has not voted, the screen pop-up should be there. It'd be really good. It would help us to improve these sessions. If you could vote, please.
Okay, well, just to kind of wrap things up then for the evening, next steps from this is, as mentioned earlier, this is part of a longer term project, which initially is aiming to help individuals prepare for these type of opportunities that Megan had mentioned in relation to the apprenticeships, graduate schemes, and further training if that's something that you want to do to prepare yourself for different roles. So from today, our ask really is to sign up. Tracy's on the call, you can see her there. She's going to be your main contact at Building Pathways throughout this program. To sign up, you'll need to email info@buildingpathways.org. In fact, there's another way that you can sign up, and you can see the address there. You can either do it via our website. There's a page dedicated for this project. I always call it build your own future, build your new future. So don't go looking for your own future. You won't find the page. So there's 2 routes there that you can sign up to, and then book a one-to-one session with Tracy. And as we've said, we'll continue to have these webinars throughout the next 5 to 6 months, and we start drilling down on some of the skills and attitudes that Megan had mentioned, to try and develop those, and to look at which ones that you might have, that you may not considered are relevant for the industry, that are transferable. So I do encourage you to participate and make most of this opportunity. For us, it is in one sense about getting people into work, but the journey is, we want you to understand what you're getting into. We want you to prepare to have a sustainable job and to develop a career, rather than having a job that might last 1 week or 2 weeks. We want you really to think about what career path you like to take, and this is all part of that preparation. So I really appreciate you both coming today, and as I say, hopefully we'll see you again soon. Tracy, you might follow up with, I hope, following this call. And yeah, once again, Megan, thank you so much for your time and for your input.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. That was really great. I've learned a lot today.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you.
Megan, you spoke brilliantly, actually, really, really brilliantly. Well done.
Oh, thank you. It's like a script I have in my head now. I think about it in my sleep. I've done it so many times.
Don't get nightmares then.
And it's perfect timing. Look at that, 47 minutes.
Fantastic.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Have a good evening.
Yeah, and particularly thank you, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.